Are you someone who's trying to decide between a Sony and a Fuji for your first camera? You don't know where to start? You don't know which system you should choose? Well, you come to the right place. In today's video, I want to share my thoughts and opinions and share some pros and cons because I've been shooting with both the Sony camera system and the Fujifilm system for several years now. I'm not trying to start a flame war between the two systems. I just think that it would be helpful to share some of my insights for any of those considering these two systems as their first camera system. So why don't we just get into it? Let's start with the Fujifilm. Well, Fujifilm is great at making retro-looking cameras. This has garnered a lot of attention on social media, which itself is kind of impressive. I would have never thought Fujifilm would take off the way it did, but judging by the hours of content that I consumed on TikTok about everything Fujifilm, it's really popular, especially in Asia. I've seen content from India, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, China, the Philippines. And I think one of the reasons why they're so popular is because they're much more affordable than the Sony full-frame lineup. It's a lower cost of barrier to entry, meaning that there's more hands touching a Fujifilm camera. Now combine this with their retro design. Everybody and their grandma wants one and wants to bring one around everywhere. It's also a nice size with easy to carry lenses, so it's not so cumbersome to carry around. We also gotta talk about the image quality, which I think is better than the Sony. I love the Fujifilm's colors, I love their film simulations. Fujifilm has like 70 years of experience in creating film stocks, so they use that knowledge to provide us with film simulations, which a lot of these cool kids really seem to enjoy. Their straight out of camera JPEGs are what makes things fun for the folks that just want a quick turnaround time and they're not great at editing RAWs. You know, there are some photographers out there who are not great editors. They just want to keep things natural and keep things the way it is. At the moment, they are really hard to get. Everything seems to be on back order. If you would like to buy one on the second-hand market, you're usually paying a markup for it. Like MPB is selling an 8-year-old Fuji camera for 750 euros when it shouldn't cost more than like 300 to 400 max. There are people out there that is taking advantage of this hype. It really sucks for the consumer who really wants a Fujifilm but don't want to spend something that isn't worth that much. Although the lack of availability is generating buzz and hype for Fujifilm, I wonder if it's doing more harm for them not being able to keep up with demands, because the folks that can't wait are going to take their money and surely go somewhere else now that there are a few players that have entered this market with their version of retro design cameras like Nikon ZF, the Sony A7C II, or the Lumix S9s. There are other options out there who are going to take up this space, but you know, you shouldn't buy the S9. You should. Another con of theirs is their autofocusing. You guys already know how I feel about the autofocusing on the Fujifilm system. Like, I don't want to have to keep repeating myself, but like, for the folks that don't know, it's not as great as Sony. It's a pile of horseshit. Like, we're talking about the autofocusing tracking, of course. And if and when Fujifilm can get their shit together, their cameras will operate so much better. But as for now, just know that if you're going to get a Fujifilm system, you will be guaranteed to have some missed focus shots. And don't think that it's mostly user error. It's definitely Fujifilm's fault as well. So just be mindful of that. And another thing is Fujifilm has a smaller third-party lens selection than Sony. Although it's growing, it's not as large as something like the Sony's. Another con about Fuji is they don't have a full frame option. Fujifilm exclusively offers an APS-C X mount, and then they also have a medium format GFX cameras. Let's just say down the line when you want to upgrade, you can either go the medium format route, which is great and all, but depending on the lenses and the cameras you get, it's going to be more expensive than the full frame system. Or if you want to upgrade to a full frame sensor or full frame camera, then you're going to have to switch to a different brand like a Sony's. So that is just a few cons that I've noticed about the Fujifilm system. I'll be waiting for you. I think the reason why people like Sony is because they seem to cram everything into their camera, provide a lot of tech in their cameras. They also segment their cameras out as well. So if you're a video shooter, you can go for the Sony a7S line or the FX3 or FX30 line. If you're an entry-level shooter, then, and you want a little bit of everything for hybrid stuff, you can go for the Sony a7 line. And if you want the ultimate resolution, you go for the Sony a7R line, and so on. Sony offers both full-frame and APS-C cameras. Now, this provides a path for upgrading to a full-frame body later without needing to switch systems, like what I said about the Fujifilm X mount system. E-mount lenses can fit both the sensor size, so you can still use the same lenses. It will fit both sensor size, which is freaking cool. And another reason why people like Sony is because they have a diverse full-frame lens lineup. Sony did a great job at developing their native lenses, and you also have a plethora of third-party companies developing lenses for Sony as well. And it's just really great to see because they have something for everyone. Whether if you're on a budget or you want the highest quality, the best of the best lenses out there, there's probably a lens out there for you. I really like how my images look taken with a Sony camera, but I still prefer Fujifilm when it comes to the colors. I still enjoy both of them, but at the end of the day, image quality is really subjective anyway. Another thing Sony is great at is their autofocus. And I think it's one of the best in the game. If I were to hand a Sony camera to someone who's never used a camera before, I will just turn on the autofocusing and the eye tracking and just tell them to push that button. And I trust the Sony camera will get the shot for me. It's really that good. Now, when it comes to video quality, I would also add this into the pros section just because I see so many creators shooting with Sony cameras. Now, like I said earlier, I think because of how Sony just likes to cram their tech inside the camera, it actually helps creators with their vision as well. High quality 4K video, 4K 120, 4K 60, reliable autofocusing depending on what camera you get, the ability to film in low light, the full frame sensors, the Sony a7S III and FX3 are very popular with the creators for these reasons. You also have the full frame sensors, the good autofocusing, it just makes it like so easy to shoot with. It makes it a more reliable tool. The barrier to entry is a bit more expensive when you enter the full-frame territory. Full-frame cameras and lenses cost more than the Fujifilm cameras and lenses. Now, if you compare something like the Fujifilm X-T5 with the XF 33mm, which is their best 50mm full-frame equivalent, to something like the Sony a7 IV with the 50mm f1.4 G Master, you can see the price difference here. I also found that Sony doesn't care that much about their APS-C lens lineup. Although they recently released like the Sony a6700 this past year. It's an awesome APS-C camera, by the way. If you want to see that review, you can check it out here somewhere. But there aren't many good native prime lenses that I found. If I want to use good prime lenses for the APS-C lens, I would have to use third-party lenses like Sigma or Viltrox. Again, this is for APS-C primes. The Sony APS-C lenses aren't as fleshed out as the Fujifilm. Now, I've owned the Sony a7 IV and the a7S III in the past. I currently own the Sony a7C II, and I really enjoy the shooting experience on the a7C II. The lenses are huge though. That's the thing. No matter how small and compact they make these Sony full-frame cameras, the lenses are always going to look huge, and it's always going to be like front-heavy depending on the lens. I'm fine with it because I really enjoy the autofocus on the a7C II. I enjoy the sharp images that I get, but for me, the Sony a7C II isn't as inspiring and fun like my Fujifilm camera. If you want clean, sharp images with precision and performance, Sony is really great. But there are other folks out there who really don't care about the autofocusing and the performance aspect of a camera. Some of these folks, the more artsy folks, will like a camera like Fujifilm. I've shot with so many Fujifilm cameras nowadays, but the one that I do enjoy using is the X-T5 and the X100VI. The autofocusing isn't as good as Sony's. I do get lots of missed focus shots. Now, I just want to warn you guys, getting into this system, is this something that you care about? I've been shooting with Fuji longer than I have with Sony, so I'm able to put up with their quirks right now. When it nails focus, I really enjoy the photo that I get. But it doesn't mean that this should be the way moving forward into the future. I find what Fujifilm doing is unacceptable. Now, like I said earlier, Fujifilm, the company, has got some problems. From having stock issues, from releasing firmwares that's supposed to make your cameras better, but ending up making it worse. Kind of hard for me to say much positive things about Fujifilm, the company right now. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the cameras, but not the people running the company as of late. It's been several months since the firmware updates, and we still haven't got anything, but as of this recording right now. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. Now, the reason why I put up with this bullshit is because I enjoy these cameras. It's just more fun to take out for some reason. Like, if I'm ever feeling uncreative, if I'm ever having a creative block, I would just take out my Fujifilm camera and go for a walk and start shooting. The Fujifilm does have that fun factor to their cameras. And anytime I have both my Fuji and Sony in the camera bag, guess which one I'm always taking out first? That's right, it's the Fujifilm. The colors are great, the files are much easier to work with than the Sony. And I don't care what anybody says on the internet about how they can shoot RAW so they can get a certain look out of any camera. It takes longer to edit a Sony RAW file than it does my Fujifilm RAW files. So if you're someone who doesn't want to spend that much time editing, you're a beginner and you don't know how to edit or where to begin, this is something you have to consider. Do you want to spend more time editing and massaging those Sony RAW files, or would you rather just use that time editing to go out and capture more photos? Which one would you like to use? Because I know I don't like sitting down on my computer spending hours trying to get the photos I like. I really enjoy going out and taking photos. If you're someone who wants to earn money with their camera in the future, whether it's photo or video, go with the Sony. The autofocusing is reliable and the images you'll be satisfied with. Now, if you're someone who wants to express themselves creatively, enjoys taking photos a lot more, who wants to enjoy taking their camera everywhere with them, get a Fujifilm. They make retro looking cameras, whereas the Sony cameras are very utilitarian in their bodies. At the end of the day, both systems are great in my opinion. Both systems do different things well. So just pick one and grow with it. There are so many great cameras out there nowadays. It's just hard to pick a shitty camera unless it's a Lumix S9. And for the people that do own Sony cameras and Fuji cameras, let me know your experience. What are some things you like about your Sony, and what are some things you like about your Fuji, and what are some things you wish they could do better? Now, I hope this video helped you make the right decision in choosing a camera system. If it did, consider subscribing and liking this video, as it pushes the video out to more potential viewers and helps grow this channel so I can do more videos like this one. And that's it for me, guys. Thanks so much.